Chapter 5607 was too funny. Although many people felt that this Yen Qingqing was really shameless. Why was she the alliance leader? However, it had to be said that if she did not come up with this idea and specially sent them a letter, they would not have thought of raising a banner and giving gifts to their idols. Moreover, this Yen Qingqing not only looked ordinary, but her cultivation level was also very low. Bei Yu definitely would not take a fancy to her. She was just a wedding dress for them. If she was willing to be their wedding dress, then so be it. On the other side, Ding Wenru repeated what she had said, but replaced Bei Yu with Ji Lingfeng. She felt so aggrieved. She clearly did not like that Ji Lingfeng, alright? But now, she had become the alliance leader of Ji Lingfeng's Admirer Alliance. She was simply forcing a woman to become a prostitute. Pooey! Pooey! She was forcing a duck to the rack. Those who adored Ji Lingfeng accepted Ding Wenru as the alliance leader very easily. The reason was very simple. Ding Wenru was a burly woman and was not a threat to them at all. Qi Huan was completely dumbfounded. This Yen Qingqing was too good at playing. In such a short period of time, she had already made herself the alliance chief. He had the intention to expel them, but if they refused to leave, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. It would not be good. Therefore, he could only watch helplessly as the female students busied themselves. Some were busy preparing gifts, some were busy making wooden tokens, and some were even putting on makeup. Yun Chujio continued to write the slogans while secretly recording these love rivals in her black ledger. 2 hours later, President He walked out with a group of people from the upper house and was stunned by the scene in front of him. Thousands of girls were divided into 2 camps with various banners and wooden tokens in their hands. Bei Yu, you are as handsome as a jade tree. You love me, Bei Yu, you are unparalleled in the world. The most wonderful thing in the world is for Bei Yu to take one more look at me in the crowd. After confirming the look in his eyes, Bei Yu, you are the person I am looking for. The 4 seasons flow, only I, Ling Feng. If you don't leave me, I won't abandon you. Ling Feng, you're the most handsome man in the world. Ling Feng Gongzi, you're the most handsome man in the world. President He was so angry that his nose almost went crooked. These girls usually didn't cultivate actively, but they had some experience in making such a mess. It was simply a disgrace. When the Fire Elements sect Master Jin saw the leader of the 2 teams, he almost pulled off his beard. There was no other reason than that he knew both of them. They were both the bane of his fire element. One of them was the bane of his beauty, while the other was her sidekick. Why was the sign in Ding Wenru's hand different from the others? On the wooden sign was written, Ling Feng, be careful of your spasms. Vice-Chancellor Duanmu and the others from the upper house also had stiff expressions on their faces. The students from the lower house were indeed lively. Ji Lingfeng was somewhat pleased with himself. The number of people who supported him was not any less than Bei Yes. However, when he saw the sign in Ding Wenru's hand, his expression froze for a moment. Bei Yes' expression did not change. When he swept his gaze across the figure who was jumping around in the front, his eyes flashed with a hint of indulgence. Xiao Lianqiu's expression was somewhat unsightly. Bei Yu was someone she had set her eyes on. It was fine if there were those who did not have eyes in the upper house to snatch him away from her, but she did not expect that there would be so many shameless bitches in the lower house. At this moment, Ding Wenru shyly walked in front of Ji Lingfeng and, coquettishly, said, Young Master Lingfeng, I am the president of Ji Lingfeng's Admirer Alliance. Everyone entrusted me to give you these gifts. Please accept them. Chapter 5608 Please have some self-respect. Ji Lingfeng was startled by Ding Wenru's pretentious attitude, but he still revealed a warm smile and accepted the gifts. If you don't mind, then thank you, seniors and juniors. As soon as he finished speaking, the admirers immediately let out surprised cheers mixed with the slogans they had shouted earlier. Ji Lingfeng could not help but feel a little smug. The blow he had received from Xiao Lianqiu earlier was somewhat comforting. Ding Wenru, on the other hand, was disgusted. She hated this kind of hypocritical man the most. Bei Yu was still the best. Unfortunately, Bei Yu had already been targeted by this jinx, Qingqing. She could only heartlessly cut off her little infatuation. At the thought of this, she looked at Yun Chujio and wondered why this fellow had not made a move. Could it be that he was too shy? Then, she was stunned to see Yun Chujio pounce into Bei Ye's arms at lightning speed and shamelessly wrap her arms around his waist. However, what Ding Wenru did not know was that Hei Xinjiu used her sleeve as a cover to forcefully pinch Bei Ye's waist. Unfortunately, Bei Ye's waist was too strong, so she did not pinch him. Bei Ye's body stiffened for a moment. He suppressed the reluctance in his heart and suddenly took a few steps back. With a cold expression, he said, "Please have some self-respect." Hei Xinjiu cursed in her heart. "Have some self-respect, you daddy. You shameless bastard. You better remember this sentence for me. There will be a time for you to have some self-respect." Xiao Lianqiu's expression immediately darkened and she shouted sternly, "What's wrong with you? Don't you know that Beiyu hates it when others get close to him? Do you even have any upbringing?" Yun Chujio was already angry in her heart. When she heard Xiao Lianqiu's words, she immediately chuckled and said, "Of course I don't have any upbringing like Senior Xiao. I also don't know what kind of person you are to Beiyu. Does Beiyu not have a mouth? Does he need you to speak up for him? Haven't you heard that the body is far more honest than the mouth? Although Beiyu doesn't say anything, he enjoys my embrace. What are you worried about?" Everyone present was stunned. On one hand, they were shocked by Yun Chujio's shameless embrace. On the other hand, it was because she actually dared to rebuke Xiao Lianqiu to her face. Was she tired of living? Whether it was Xiao Lianqiu's family background or her current identity as a member of the upper house, any one of them was enough to crush Yan Qingqing. Wasn't she asking for trouble? Yun Chujio also knew this. If it was in the past, she might have swallowed her anger. But now that this fellow had overturned the pot of vinegar, how could she care about who Xiao Lianqiu was? Even if the heavenly king dared to covet her man, he was also courting death. Xiao Lianqiu's face was flushed red, and her heart was filled with killing intent. She immediately raised her hand and was about to make a move. Yun Chujio ran to President He's side and said with a trembling voice, "President, she wants to kill me. You have to make a decision for me. You are the president of the lower house, and she wants to kill me in front of you. Isn't this slapping your face?" President He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He had seen shameless people before, but this was the first time he had seen such a shameless person. Now he knew that he was afraid. What did he do just now? However, he couldn't really watch the students of the lower house being killed without moving an inch. He said unhappily, "Yan Qingqing, you are so rude. Why aren't you apologizing to student Xiao?" Yun Chujio pursed her lips in her heart. Calling her was her full name. When it came to Xiao Lianqiu, she became student Xiao. Was it really good to treat her differently? Chapter 5609 Young Adoration. Although Yun Chujio was complaining in her heart, she said with a kind expression on her face, "Senior Xiao, I'm sorry. I was talking nonsense just now. You have a family upbringing, a very good family upbringing." Xiao Lianqiu was furious. This slut was not apologizing, she was clearly provoking. She wanted to pursue the matter, but Yun Chujio stood beside President He. No matter how arrogant she was, she did not dare to make a move in front of President He. She could only suppress the anger in her heart and sneered, "Yan Qingqing, right? I will remember you." "Don't, your esteemed self is forgetful. It's better for you to forget about me. I don't want to be remembered by you," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Xiao Lianqiu really could not stand it anymore. Just as she was about to flare up, Vice President Dongfang cupped his hands towards President He. "It's getting late. We will take our leave now." President He was naturally very grateful for Vice President Dongfang's help in resolving the situation. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he was ready to send them out of the lower house. Unexpectedly, Yun Chujio ran in front of Beiyu and smiled like a flower. "Brother Beiyu, I'm Yan Qingqing, the president of the Northern Imperial Admirers Union. I'm the one who's said to be devastatingly beautiful. Oh right, everyone asked me to give you some gifts. Don't decline." "Everyone? You have the nerve to say that you are devastatingly beautiful with your delicate and pretty face? Do you have some misunderstanding about the words country, toppling beauty? Xiao Lianxiao was about to explode from anger. This shameless bitch. She actually called him Big Brother Beiyu? He was really too shameless. Even a country-toppling beauty? She did not know where she got her confidence from. Beiyu's expression froze slightly. Fortunately, he usually had a cold expression on his face, so no one could tell. He said coldly, "No need." Xiao Lianxiao was very happy in her heart. Damn it. It seemed that Beiyu did not react in time just now and was hugged by this Yan Qingqing. Otherwise, he would not have bothered with this ugly trash. Everyone thought that Yun Chujio would retreat because of the difficulty, but this guy said shamelessly, "Big Brother Beiyu, if you don't accept the gift, I won't let you leave today." Little ones, no, sisters, shout out the slogan. When the female students who adored Beiyu saw that the gift he had carefully prepared was actually rejected, they immediately cooperated with Yun Chujio and shouted, "Beiyu, Beiyu, you're as handsome as a jade tree. Love me, Beiyu, Pim unparalleled in the world. Beiyu, Beiyu, you're number one in the world." Beiyu furrowed his brows, his face was cold, and his tone was cold and impatient as he said, "It won't happen again." Yun Chujio immediately passed the gift to Beiyu and shamelessly said, "I'm sorry, but I have to tell you something. Let's talk about the future later. Brother Beiyu, you're leaving soon. Shouldn't we hug each other again? Your embrace is too warm." President he could not bear to look at her anymore. This Yan Qingqing was originally quite smart. Why did she turn into a nymphomaniac when she saw Beiyu? What a disgrace. President he glared at Yun Chujio and said, "Yan Qingqing, that's enough. Leave now, or else the academy will punish you." Yun Chujio pouted and retreated to the side, but her eyes were still fixed on Beiyu, as if she could not wait to pounce on him. President he wished he could slap her to death. He squeezed out a smile and said to the three vice-chancellors, "The students of the upper academy are so outstanding, and they are young and envious. They are a little reckless, so please forgive them." Chapter 5610, You Must Have Some Self-Respect. Monthly pass requested. The three vice-chancellors of Dongfang were enjoying the show, but they didn't mind. They smiled and said, "President He, you're exaggerating. It's normal for young people to be lively. Our upper house doesn't have such a relaxed atmosphere. Those kids are too steady." President He thought to himself, it's really easy to talk while standing. Lively? Relaxed? How would you know that he was a troublemaker? And he was the kind of troublemaker who couldn't be expelled even if he wanted to. President He exchanged a few more pleasantries before leaving with the upper house's people. Not long after they walked out, a hoarse shout came from behind them, "Big Brother Beiyu, I'll miss you. You must have some self-respect in the upper house." President He staggered, so angry that his beard stood up. After sending these people from the upper house away, he would deal with that troublemaker. The people from the upper house also stopped in their tracks. Only Beiyu remained as usual, as if he did not hear Yun Chujio's shout. President He could not help but sigh. A genius was indeed a genius. This Beiyu's self-control was even stronger than this old man. Xiao Lianxiao, on the other hand, was quite angry. "Slut, just you wait." After bidding farewell to President He, the three of them boarded the ship and returned to the upper house's waterside pavilion. On the way, Beiyu expressionlessly turned some handkerchiefs, jade pendants, and the like into powder and threw them into the lake. Xiao Lianqiao's originally bad mood suddenly became bright and beautiful. She was also muddled with anger for a moment. How could such a proud son of heaven like Beiyu take a liking to those good-for-nothings from the upper and lower house? It was just that it wasn't good to shed all pretense of cordiality just now. However, when she thought of those love rivals from the upper house, her heart sank again. Ji Lingfeng's eyes flashed with a faint light. This Beiyu was completely unreasonable. As long as he spread this matter out, those admirers would definitely be greatly disappointed and might even develop resentment. The three vice-chancellors of Dongfang looked at each other. It was better for them to settle the young man's matter by themselves. But then again, that Yan Qingqing was really thick-skinned. They had never seen such a thick-skinned person. A figure flashed through Vice-Chancellor Duan's mind. He had really seen a thick-skinned little girl at the Great Firmament Gala. However, that little girl was not as lucky as Yan Qingqing. Even if she had not been snatched away by the divine devil hall, it was impossible for her to enter the 10 Directions Academy. On the other side, President He fear. What nonsense. Forget it this time. If there's a next time, I won't let it go easily. Disperse. President He originally wanted to teach Yun Chujio a lesson, but no matter how he thought about it, he could not think of any academy rules that could teach her a lesson. This troublemaker really knew how to take advantage of loopholes. However, she was too bold and reckless. That Xiao Lianxiao definitely wouldn't be nice to her anymore. She would have to suffer in the future. After President He left, everyone dispersed. Ding Wenru walked to Yun Chujia's side with an unhappy expression and said, "Qingqing, this is simply not the work of a human. When I see that Ji Lingfeng, I get angry and even have to pretend to be in love with him. It's really too fucking uncomfortable." Yun Chujio took out a few spiritual fruits and handed them to Ding Wenru. "Here, it's for the mental damage." The unhappiness on Ding Wenru's face instantly disappeared. "Qingqing, I was just saying that just now. While he disgusted me, I also disgusted him. If you have anything to say in the future, just say it. Well, by the way, you were too brave just now. Go and hug that Beiyu. Aren't you afraid that hell'll slap you away?" "He won't." "Why?" Ding Wenru asked curiously. "Because PM beautiful." Ding Wenru. Chapter 5611. Take a guess. Ding Wenru looked at Yun Chujia's cold face and couldn't help but nod in agreement. She was not blind. Ding Wenru took a bite of the fruit and perfectly avoided the topic. Then she asked in puzzlement, I've seen Hu Lianer eat this kind of spiritual fruit before. It's said to be very difficult to buy. Where did you get it?" Yun Chujio curled her lips. "Guess." Ding Wenru was dumbfounded. "Guess?" Yun Chujio said with a smile, "I'm the one being punished now after all. It's not good for me to stay outside for too long. I'll return to the self-examination square first." After saying that, Yun Chujio hopped away. Ding Wenru was stunned on the spot for a while, then her eyes suddenly widened. She thought of a possibility. These spiritual fruits couldn't have been given to Beiyu by those girls, right? Qingqing had secretly hidden them away? The more Ding Wenru thought about it, the more she felt that this possibility was very high. She was both impressed and regretful. If she had known earlier, she would have done the same thing. She was so regretful that her intestines were turning green. Yun Chujio had just jumped into the self-examination square when she saw Sect Master Zhen of the fire element waiting for her with a gloomy face. Beside him stood a few law enforcement members who were drooping their heads. When those law enforcement members saw Yun Chujio, although they didn't say anything, their resentful eyes made Yun Chujio shiver. This guy touched his nose guiltily and then said in a flattering manner, "Sect Master, why are you here? Why are you all so blind? Bring a chair for the Sect Master to sit on." A bunch of blockheads. Those law enforcement members were so angry that their noses were crooked. The reason why they were scolded by the Sect Master was very simple. This Yan Qingqing was supposed to be brewing salt in the self-reflection workshop, but now not only did she run out, she even jumped outside the lake-gazing pavilion to show off. If it weren't for the fact that Sect Master Zhen was concerned about his own face, he would have wanted to teach her a lesson at that time. Therefore, as soon as the people from the upper house left, he went to the self-reflection workshop to wait for He Xinjiu and scolded the enforcers at the same time. "Yan Qingqing, did you turn a deaf ear to my words? Have you finished boiling 50 kilograms of well salt?" "Yes." "Since you haven't finished boiling it, why did you leave the self-reflection workshop without permission? You are openly disobeying me." "What? Have you finished boiling it?" Sect Master Zhen couldn't believe his ears. It had only been 2 days and she could boil 50 kilograms of well salt? Didn't they say that she hadn't been able to make 100 caddies of well salt in each? Yun Chujio threw a big sack on the ground and said with a smile, "Sect Master, I'm telling the truth. Look, this is the genuine well salt." Sect Master Zhen was still a little skeptical and let the law enforcement team check. In the end, the sack was indeed filled with well salt, and it was only 100 caddies more than 100 caddies less. This time, Sect Master Zhen was a little embarrassed. He coughed dryly and glared at the enforcers. Since Yan Qingqing has completed the mission, why didn't you tell me? The enforcers were so aggrieved that they wanted to vomit blood. It was only now that they knew that Yan Qingqing had completed the mission. However, they couldn't say that they didn't know before. If they said that they didn't know before, it would be a negligence of duty. They could only suffer in silence and couldn't say anything. Sect Master Zhen glared at Yun Chujio again. Since you've completed the mission, why did you only come to hand in the mission? This is considered killing first and reporting later. It's also not allowed by the Academy's rules. Yun Chujio immediately said with a regretful expression, Sect Master, what you said makes sense. I was wrong. PM willing to boil another 100 gene of well salt. Please don't be angry. It's not worth it to be angry with a useless person like me who doesn't want to improve. Sect Master Zhen. Chapter 56:12 Firmly disagreed. Sect Master Zhen's mouth opened and closed, not knowing what to say. Because everything that could be said had been said by He Xinjiu. Not only had he made a clear and correct position for himself, but he had also fought for a punishment for himself. What else could he say? Take care of yourself. After leaving these words, Sect Master Zhen flicked his sleeves and left. Take care, Sect Master Zhen. Come and have some tea when you have time. Sect Master Zhen staggered and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't have time. After Sect Master Zhen's figure disappeared, Yun Chujio turned around and glanced at the enforcers. She took out a bamboo basket of salt-baked chicken and gave one to each of them. It's my fault for dragging you guys into this today. It's just a small token of appreciation. How does it taste? It was the time for dinner. These law enforcement members were already hungry, so how could they hold back when they smelled the aroma of the salt-baked chicken? One by one, they broke off the drumsticks and started eating. They only felt that the skin was crispy and tender, and the fragrance was incomparably fresh. It was actually a taste that they had never tasted before. Yun Chujio took out a table and took out a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone to sketch. Everyone was engrossed in eating the chicken, and no one paid attention to what she was writing. After a while, a member of the law enforcement team asked, Junior Yen, how is this chicken made? Why does it taste so good? The method is not difficult. It is to marinate it with seasonings, wrap it in lotus leaves, and then bury it in a big pot to boil salt. After burning it for an hour, it will be ready, so this is called salt-baked chicken, Yun Chujio said with a smile. The law enforcers immediately froze. What? She actually used a big pot to boil salt to make salt-baked chicken? One of the law enforcers blurted out, You are violating the rules of the academy by doing this. Yun Chujio pointed at the salt-baked chicken in his hand and said indifferently, We are all on the same side. What is there to violate the rules of the academy? It's not a big deal. Besides, even if you report it, I will only be punished with a few 100 kilograms of salt. If you are willing to sue me, go ahead. The enforcers looked like they wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Sue my ass. No wonder this troublemaker was so kind to treat them to chicken. It turned out that he had no good intentions. Now they were all accomplices. Could they sue themselves? Wasn't that crazy? Everyone looked at the salt-baked chicken in their hands, wishing they could throw it at He Xinjia's face. However, they didn't dare to. This troublemaker was full of bad ideas. It was better not to offend her. Yun Chujio said with a smile, All right, what are you waiting for? Eat it while it's hot. You still have to go on patrol after you finish eating. The law enforcers didn't have the mood to eat the chicken. They turned around and wanted to leave, in case they couldn't help but strangle the troublemaker in front of them. At this moment, Yun Chujio's slightly cold voice was heard. Wait, you guys are leaving just like that? I worked hard to make that salt-baked chicken, and I even took the risk of breaking the academy's rules to make it. Are you guys planning to eat it for free? The enforcers were so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. What did she mean by that? She was the one who said that she would treat them to chicken, but why did she still want to extort them? One of the law enforcement team members suppressed his anger and asked, Junior Yen, what do you mean by that? Yun Chujio revealed a meaningful smile. I heard that both the official and the audit student's law enforcement team leader is still vacant. I've decided to recommend myself. What do you think? Everyone. What kind of joke was that? Just her? Putting aside whether her cultivation and experience were enough, she was being punished every few days. If she were to become the law enforcement team leader, she would definitely turn the world upside down. She would definitely not agree to this matter. How about chapter 5613? If you don't say anything, do you think that my suggestion is not bad? How about this? Since you've all agreed, come and sign this petition. Yun Chujio picked up the piece of paper that she had just written and blew at the ink on it for everyone to read. When everyone saw the crooked handwriting on it, they could not help but twitch their lips. Not only was Yen Qingcheng's cultivation level very low, but her handwriting was also not very good. As the crowd ridiculed in their hearts, they read the content on the page. The gist of it was that in order to ease the tension between the official students and the spectating students, the law enforcement team should not have two more team leaders, but should have the same person as the team leader. Yen Qingcheng handled matters fairly and had a pure and kind heart. She was the best choice for the team leader. Therefore, they all recommended Yen Qingcheng as the team leader of the law enforcement team. When the law enforcement team members saw the words, pure heart, they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Pure heart? Her heart was like a viper. No, it was even more poisonous than a viper. Seeing that the law enforcement team members did not move, Yun Chujio said faintly, I won't force you. I don't like to force people to do things that are difficult for me. It's okay if you don't sign. I won't do anything to you. You definitely won't end up like Yuan Hui and Tao Quan. Those enforcers weren't fools. How could they not know that Yun Chujio was threatening them in disguise? When they thought about the fate of Yuan Hui and Tao Quan, they couldn't help but shiver. They thought about it again. Even if they signed and pressed their handprints, the department head might not agree. Why did they have to offend this troublemaker? Thus, after a moment, everyone signed their names on the petition and pressed their handprints. Yun Chujio nodded with satisfaction. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you guys in the future. All of you can leave. Everyone cursed in their hearts. But they hadn't even crossed the line yet, and they actually had the nerve to call themselves captain. Shameless. Although they thought so in their hearts, no one dared to say it on the surface. They left the self-examination square dejectedly. Yun Chujio put away the petition and curled the corners of her lips. That Xiao Lianqiao definitely had some tricks up her sleeve. She would be more cautious if she became a captain. Thinking of Xiao Lianqiao, this guy smiled and took out a voice transmission talisman. This voice transmission talisman was not brought by her from the Chongshao continent. It was a general voice transmission talisman used in the Divine Enlightenment continent. She had even found it in Yuan Hu's storage ring. When she had given the gift to Beiyu, she had mixed the corresponding voice transmission talisman with it. With the pretty boy's intelligence, he would definitely have guessed it. Logically speaking, the pretty boy should have arrived at the upper house's waterside pavilion by now. Why hadn't he sent her a voice transmission talisman? Could it be that he hadn't seen it? Or could it be that he hadn't expected that it was the voice transmission talisman that she had given him? It shouldn't be. Although the pretty boy wasn't as smart as her, he wasn't stupid either. He should have thought of it. Perhaps something had delayed him. Hei Xinjiu waited and waited. It was almost midnight, but the voice transmission talisman still didn't move. This guy could not hold it in anymore. He picked up the voice transmission talisman and wanted to ask what was going on, but then he thought that if the voice transmission talisman fell into someone else's hands and she said something amazing, wouldn't that be bad? Her heart moved, and she was also dumbfounded. Maybe the gigolo thought the same. After all, there was no mark on the voice transmission talisman, so he did not know that he gave it to her. He thought that it was given by another nymphomaniac. She thought for a moment and said, Big brother Beiyu, I'm your little sister Qingqing. The night is long and it's lonely. How about we talk? Chapter 5614. His little Jiao had indeed grown up. Seeing that the message had been successfully sent, Yun Chujio's little heart pounded violently. She stared unblinkingly at the voice-transmitting talisman in her hand. On the other side, Yu held the voice-transmitting talisman in his hand with a conflicted expression on his face. He logically understood that he should have destroyed the voice-transmitting talisman along with the other gifts in order to be absolutely safe, but he still could not bear to do so. Although there was no mark on the voice transmission talisman, he knew that it must have been given to him by little Gio. He naturally had a lot of things to say to her, but what she did not know was that the 10 Directions Academy had a powerful array. Whether it was the Identity Jade token or the voice transmission talisman, as long as one had enough authority, they could listen in on the contents. Only a few people knew about this, and he only found out about it by chance. If little Gio said something that shouldn't be said in the voice transmission talisman, then his plan would fall apart, and he might even implicate her. He sighed and was about to destroy the voice transmission talisman in his hand, but he didn't expect it to tremble. He struggled for a moment, but still sent his spiritual sense in, and Yun Chujia's clear voice came from inside. Hearing Yun Chujia's words, the corners of Bei's mouth could not help but curl up slightly. His little Gio had indeed grown up and was much more cautious in her actions. He thought about it. Perhaps he had thought the problem was too complicated. If it was just Yu and Yan Qingqing, so what if someone was listening in? However, how could he hint at little Gio's point? He frowned and pondered for a moment before replying, "Yan Qingqing, you and I are just strangers. Please have some self-respect." After receiving the voice transmission talisman, Yun Chujia's first reaction was to get angry. This pretty boy, this boring slut, was he addicted to role-playing? A stranger? Which stranger had even seen her little Tang Yuan? No, big Tang Yuan. Just as she was about to scold him, she felt that there was something fishy about this matter. The pretty boy had always been a man of few words. There was no reason for him to not talk about serious matters. He insisted on mentioning Yan Qingqing and even emphasized that they were strangers. Could it be that he had some unspeakable secrets? She decided to test him again, so she said sweetly, "Brother Yu, how can we be considered strangers? We've hugged before. Although I have many suitors who surround me all day and try to curry favor with me, I can't chase them away. However, I only have a crush. The sun and the moon can be seen. Don't you feel anything at all?" This fellow knew that Baiming was a jealous man. If he did not have any misgivings, he would definitely fly into a rage. If he did not fly into a rage, it was most likely because he had some misgivings. A moment later, the voice transmission talisman started to vibrate. A low voice came from within, "No." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. It seemed like the pretty boy was really afraid. Logically speaking, the voice transmission talisman would not let outsiders know the contents. There was no reason for him to hide it. Could it be that there was something fishy about this voice transmission talisman? Although the gigolo had many questions in his heart, he still said pitifully, "Brother Yu, you are too cruel. I will ignore you." This time, Yu did not reply. Yun Chujio confirmed her guess. She rolled her eyes. No matter what, she was now certain that Yu was the gigolo. Although the two of them were separated by 2 houses, there would always be a way to get together. Right now, the most important thing was to increase her spiritual power as soon as possible. Sigh, the days of being struck by lightning were simply too hard to endure. The good days of being struck by lightning whenever there was nothing to do were gone forever. Chapter 5615 was a brilliant idea. Yun Chujio pondered for a while and decided to settle the matter of the law enforcement team leader first. Then she would think of a way to solve the problem of the lightning wilderness. The next morning, this guy swaggered out of the self-examination square, completely unaware of being punished. Soon, this guy jumped into the study room of the Fire Elements Sect Master Zhen. Sect Master Zhen slammed the table and said, "Yan Qingqing, didn't you punish yourself by boiling 50 kilograms of salt? Why are you here?" Yun Chujio said with a serious expression, "Sect Master, I have something important to tell you, so I had no choice but to violate the rules of the academy. Don't worry, I will obediently go back to boil salt after I tell you what happened." Sect Master Zhen frowned and asked, "What important thing?" "Sect Master, I have thought of a good idea to let our fire element amaze the world. Whatever element of plants, water, or other random elements will be trampled under our fire element's feet. Yun Chujio said confidently. What idea? Sect Master Zhen was immediately energized. Even in his dreams, he wanted to trample the other elements under his feet. However, it was a pity that the fire element's results had always been mediocre, and they were often at the bottom of the exam. This simply made him, the sect master, lose face. Yun Chujio took out the petition with a smile. Sect Master Zhen. This is the sect Master Zhen looked at the petition in confusion and was so angry that he started to twitch. He thought that Yen Qingqing really had a way to revitalize the fire element, but he didn't expect that she was the one who wanted to be the head of the law enforcement team. How outrageous! She didn't even look at herself. She had no cultivation, no experience, no background, and she was always stirring up trouble. Unless there was no one else in the fire element, she would only be the captain of the law enforcement team. Also, were those law enforcement team members stupid? They actually supported her to be the captain of the law enforcement team? A bunch of idiots. This is absolutely impossible. Sect Master Zhen shouted coldly. Yun Chujio wasn't discouraged. She put away the petition and said, Sect Master, you have to give me a reason, right? Why is it impossible? Sect Master Zhen snorted. The captain of the law enforcement team has to be dignified among the students and have outstanding cultivation. What do Yun Chujio immediately straightened her back? Sect Master, I have dignity. Have you forgotten that I'm now the president of the Northern Imperial Admirer Union? Even the girls from the other departments are my subordinates. How dignified I am. Sect Master Zhen. If it wasn't for his status, Sect Master Zhen wow. Yun Chujio's expression turned serious and her tone became serious. Sect Master, Pim serious. I've already gained the good impression of many of the students from the auditing class. PM confident that I can convince them. Furthermore, my appointment was also a form of encouragement for them. They would definitely get rid of their previous mentality of idling around and cultivate properly. Those official students were indeed unconvinced of me, but this was also a good thing. They would definitely feel uncomfortable if I, a mere student, stood above them. When the time came, I would use the method of goading them. Those official students would definitely redouble their efforts to cultivate in order to vent their anger. In this way, our raging fire department will certainly flourish. We'll obtain excellent results in the grand examination and trample the other departments under our feet. When the time comes, you'll see how angry those department heads are. In the future, our raging fire department will be the #1 department in the lower house. The other department heads will definitely be so ashamed in front of you that they won't even dare to raise their heads. Chapter 56-16 Law Enforcement Team Leader Sect Master Zhen was moved by He Xinjia's beautiful scene. Even in his dreams, he wanted to suppress the other department heads. If it really came true, it wouldn't be a big deal to make this Yen Qingqing the captain of the law enforcement team. At worst, he could just revoke it. Therefore, he nodded his head. Alright, then you can try. But let's be honest, if you use the name of the law enforcement team leader to cause trouble, I won't let you off easily. Besides, if the results of the fire element's big exam are not satisfactory, you can forget about being the law enforcement team leader. Yun Chujio nodded her head obediently and agreed. This fellow thought that when the time came, she would be admitted to the middle court. She did not care about being the lousy law enforcement team leader anymore. After Sect Master Zhen signed the appointment certificate, He Xinjio swaggered into her post. When the news spread, the entire fire element and even the lower house were shocked. What the hell? The fire element's official student law enforcement team and the audit student law enforcement team had merged into one? There would only be one captain in the future? And that captain was Yen Qingqing? What a joke! Not only was Yen Qingqing an audit student, but her cultivation had not even reached the first level of the divine revelation realm. How could she be qualified to take on such an important task? Did the fire element sect Master Zhen go crazy? Otherwise, why would he make such a ridiculous decision? The other elements were shocked and had the mentality of watching the show, but the people of the fire element were different. Especially the formal students, they were about to explode in anger. Under Fan Kai's instigation, many formal students poured out of Sect Master Jin's courtyard to protest. At this moment, Sect Master Jin was more or less regretful. He had also been fooled by the beautiful scene that Yan Qingqing had described. After he calmed down, he suddenly felt a bit reckless. Therefore, Sect Master Jin didn't show up. He decided to see how Yan Qingqing would deal with this matter. If she couldn't solve it, then he could conveniently dismiss her as the captain of the law enforcement team. At this moment, under the escort of the law enforcement team members, He Xinjiao swaggered over. This guy shouted with a straight face, "Are you guys stupid? Why did you come to the sect master's place to make trouble? Do you want to be punished to boil salt or fired?" Those official students were already holding their breath. Now that they saw Yun Chujio being so arrogant, they immediately started shouting, "Yan Qingqing, don't be so cocky. You don't deserve to be the captain of the law enforcement team." "That's right, you're just a listening student. How can you be the captain of the law enforcement team? Do you have any sense of shame? Yan Qingqing, if you still have any self-awareness, then you should take the initiative to resign. Otherwise, if the matter is blown up, you won't have a good ending." Yun Chujio took out a large copper basin and knocked it twice. After everyone had quieted down, she then said, "I know what you all are thinking. You all think that apart from my good looks, I don't have any other advantages. Not only am I an audit student, but my cultivation level is also low. I also don't have any illustrious background, so I'm not worthy of being the law enforcement captain, am I right?" The crowd didn't know whether they should say it right or wrong, because they didn't think that this guy was good-looking. Yun Chujio continued, "You guys are right. According to this standard, I really don't have the qualifications to be a law enforcement captain. Yuan Hui does meet your standard, but what's the result? He has filled his own pockets, formed cliques, and acted tyrannically. Is this your ideal law enforcement captain? I think the captain of the law enforcement team is not meant to be a bully. He is meant to serve everyone. He has to be willing to make sacrifices for everyone. I am not talented. I have the heart to serve everyone. Previously, I was able to stand up for the audience. In the future, I will stand up for the students of the fire department and speak for you." Chapter 56:17. After hearing Yun Chujio's words, a few of the official students' attitudes softened a little, but most of them still looked angry and disdainful. What was the point of saying all this? Why did they need her to be their mouthpiece? Didn't they have their own mouths? If she, a bystander, were to pressure them, they would never be able to raise their heads in front of the official students from other departments. Weren't they too cowardly? Yun Chujio knocked on the copper basin twice and said, "Initially, I wanted to use my emotions to reason things out, but it seems that it won't work now. How about this? Which one of you thinks that you are qualified to be the captain of the law enforcement team?" Many people felt that they were qualified, but they couldn't stand out in public because they might be ostracized by others in the future. Of course, there were also people who were full of confidence. A few people stood out, indicating that they were confident to become the captain of the law enforcement team. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. "How about this? Choose the person who has the most ability to become the captain of the law enforcement team and compete with me. If I lose, the captain of the law enforcement team will be given to him. If I win, if any of you continue to talk nonsense, I won't be polite." The few of them were instantly delighted. This was a good opportunity that had fallen from the sky. Defeating this Yan Qingqing was an extremely simple matter. Therefore, as long as the other few people were eliminated, the position of the captain of the law enforcement team would be set in stone. Immediately, the few of them started to argue and clamored that they were the ones who were qualified to become the captain of the law enforcement team. At first, it was just an argument, but later, it turned into a group fight. Yun Chujio still knocked on the copper basin from time to time and shouted, "You are too slow with your punches. And you, is that leg of yours new? Hit hard. Whoever doesn't use his full strength is a bastard. The captain of the law enforcement team is waving at you. Don't be soft, don't hesitate, hit hard." Where are the students supporting the hawk-nosed guy? Hurry up and cheer him on. The students supporting San Jiaoyan, extend your warm hands and cheer him on. The students supporting the big guy, shout out your slogans and cheer him on. When Sect Master Zhen, who was secretly observing the situation outside, saw the mess outside, his nose almost went crooked from anger. Have those official students lost their minds? Have you all forgotten what you came here for? You're here to get rid of that troublemaker, Yan Qingqing. Why is it turning into an internal battle now? He wanted to go out and stop them, but he thought that once the outcome of the battle was decided, it would be a piece of cake for the winner to take care of Yan Qingqing. It wouldn't be too late for him to show up at that time. It was just the right time to teach that Yan Qingqing a lesson. An hour later, the winners were finally decided. They had a sense of propriety. They didn't use their spiritual power to attack, but only used their movement techniques to fight. The final winner was an official student named Xie Wu. He was tall and strong, and he was a senior student who had been in school for 3 years. Although Xie Wu had some injuries on his body and face, it didn't affect his good mood. In his opinion, the captain of the law enforcement team was already within his grasp. Yan Qingqing, I advise you to hand over the position of the captain of the law enforcement team directly. Otherwise, I will have to trouble myself to fight with you. After all, these punches and kicks have no eyes. It would not be good if I accidentally beat you until you vomited blood. Xie Wu arrogantly shouted. Yun Chujio hooked her little finger. If you can fight, don't shout. Come. Chapter 56:18 gives you 3 moves. Seeing that Yun Chujio's attitude was even more arrogant than his, Xie Wu immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. Good, very good. Yan Qingqing, you asked for it. He immediately threw a punch towards Yun Chujio's face. Although it was not a pure spiritual attack, the fist contained spiritual power. The whistling wind from his palm swept up the dust on the ground. If this punch had hit Yun Chujio's face, Yun Chujio would have been sent flying. Ding Wenru and the other 2 in the crowd covered their mouths nervously. Their hearts were in their throats. Although Qingqing was full of evil intentions, this was a real punch and kick. If they were not careful, they would be seriously injured. The others were gloating. A bystander was dreaming of becoming a law enforcement captain? Humph, retribution was coming. Especially Fan Qi, his eyes were full of viciousness. He was worried that he would not be able to deal with this bitch Yan Qingqing, but he did not expect her to overestimate herself and want to become the captain of the law enforcement team. She was really courting death. Just as everyone was thinking about their own thoughts, Yun Chujio's figure nimbly leaped to the side and dodged Xie Wu's punch. Xie Wu's face revealed a cold smile. He changed his fist into a claw and clawed at Yun Chujio's shoulder. Yun Chujio dodged his claw again. Almost at the same time, Xie Wu's right leg kicked at Yun Chujio's lower abdomen. Yun Chujio dodged this move again. Senior Xie, I've always respected the old and cherished the young. That's why I let you have 3 moves. I'm going to fight back now. Be careful, Yun Chujio said with a smile. Xie Wu was so angry that he almost died. Did he need her to give him 3 moves? He immediately increased his attacks, and his attacks became even faster. However, no matter how hard he tried, Yun Chujio was like a slippery little loach, always able to dodge his attacks. Moreover, the angle of her attacks was very tricky. As time went on, it made Xie Wu somewhat exhausted. The people who were besieging looked surprised. Oh God, what was going on? Why did it seem that this trash Yan Qingqing was faster than Xie Wu's movement technique? It shouldn't be. Xie Wu was already at the 8th level of the Divine Enlightenment, but that Yan Qingqing was not even at the 1st level of the Divine Enlightenment. How was this possible? However, the reality was right in front of their eyes. Xie Wu was panting from exhaustion, while that Yan Qingqing was still alive and kicking. And she kept mumbling, Senior Xie, you don't have to give in to me. Use your full strength instead. Senior Xie did. Xie Wu was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At this moment he saw that Yun Chujio had revealed a flaw. He was immediately delighted. He did not care much and immediately attacked the flaw. Who would have thought that this was a trap deliberately set by Yun Chujio? His leg had also arrived, and Yun Chujio had also turned behind him and kicked his waist. Xie entire body was instantly sent flying, and he fell heavily onto the ground. Yun Chujio patted the dust on her hands that did not exist and glanced at the crowd. If you are willing to bet, you must admit defeat. What else do you have to say now? The crowd had mixed feelings. On one hand, they hated Xie for being useless. On the other hand, they were shocked by Yun Chujio's exquisite footwork. Of course, they were more aggrieved. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. I know that you are still unconvinced. How about this? If I can get into the top 3 of the fire element in this exam, I will hand over the position of the law enforcement team leader. However, I feel that you shouldn't be able to do it. After all, everyone knows that compared to other elements, the fire element, TSK, you know. Chapter 56-19. No food to eat every day. The official students immediately glared at Yun Chujio. Her words were clearly mocking them for being inferior to the official students of other departments. Damn it. Yun Chujio curled her lips. Why are you staring at me? Am I wrong? As far as I know, in the last 10 years of the exam, the best result of the fire department was only the second to last place. However, that's also true. All your energy has been spent on fighting for power and benefits, so you naturally don't have the mood to cultivate. It's already good enough that you haven't always been the last to last place. Therefore, as the law enforcement team leader, I will definitely be stable, because it's impossible for you to get into the top 3. Everyone wished they could go up and strangle Yun Chujio to death. However, when this fellow said this, he hid in the encirclement of the law enforcement team members, his face full of fearlessness. While everyone was angry, they also felt a sense of unwillingness. Their fire element was not inferior to the other elements. It was just that they had not taken it seriously before. As long as they cultivated properly, they would definitely be able to enter the top 3, they would definitely be able to bring Yan Qingqing down. Xie Wu gritted his teeth and said, Yan Qingqing, just you wait. I will go back and cultivate properly. You just wait to get off the stage. Xie Wu's words immediately resonated with the others. Everyone started to clamor, Yan Qingqing, don't look down on others. Let's take the exam. That's right. Isn't it just the top 3? Yan Qingqing, just you wait. Yan Qingqing, I am being kind and reminding you. If you are ranked in the bottom 100 in the department, you will be expelled. At that time, not to mention the law enforcement captain, you won't even be able to be a listening student. After a round of discussion, the crowd finally dispersed. Before Yun Chujio left, she shouted towards Sect Master Zhen's courtyard. Sect Master Zhen, I want go in to pay my respects to you. After all, you enjoyed watching the show, didn't you? Sect Master Zhen, this mischievous person was simply full of schemes. However, it had to be said that her method of goading him might really be effective. Perhaps, during the big exam, their fire element would be able to amaze everyone. From that day onwards, Hei Xinjiu became the leader of the fire element's law enforcement team. Every day, she would lead the law enforcement team to show off their might in the fire element. The fire element students did not dare to voice their anger. Instead, they turned their grief and anger into motivation. One by one, they worked hard to cultivate and strive to get into the top 3 in the exam. Then, they would bring Yun Chujio down. Every night, Hei Xinjiu had one more thing that she had to do, which was to flirt. Brother Beiyu, I missed you on the 8th day after we parted. Brother Beiyu, I hugged your portrait to sleep every night. Did you miss me? Brother Beiyu, when are you going to visit me in the lower house? I miss you so much that I can't eat my meals every day. I can only eat a few plates of dumplings. Normally, Beiyu would not reply. At most, he would say, please have some self-respect. However, Yun Chujio was never tired of it. This was because in the process of flirting with him, she had inadvertently told him everything. It allowed him to know her situation like the back of his hand. During this period of time, although Hei Xinjiu was still quite happy, she was still worried about her cultivation. Without the heavenly lightning, It would be useless no matter how hard she tried. How could she be struck by lightning? She felt that it was not good to build a car behind closed doors, so she decided to find out. Therefore, when the law enforcement team held a meeting this day, this guy first said some things as a matter of routine, then changed the topic. By the way, President, he was struck by the heavenly lightning a few days ago. Does it usually rain in our 10 Directions Academy? It can't be that there will be heavenly lightning one day, right? Chapter 56 20-inch Captain, you don't have to worry about that. Although it rains and thunders occasionally in our academy, it's just normal lightning. There won't be any purple lightning like last time. It was Qian Guang who spoke. After Yun Chujio took office, she naturally had to promote a group of her trusted aides. Therefore, in addition to Ding Wenru and the other two, she also recruited Qian Guang. When Yun Chujio heard this, her heart instantly turned cold. Even ordinary lightning was rare, let alone purple heavenly lightning. Yun Chujio was afraid of arousing suspicion, so she casually asked a few more questions and then dismissed the meeting. Ding Wenru and the other two stayed behind. Ding Wenru curiously asked, "Qingqing, why are you asking about heavenly lightning? Is it related to your cultivation?" Yun Chujio didn't hide anything and nodded. If there was no heavenly thunder, my cultivation would be greatly restricted. Qin Linzlan's thought for a moment and said, "Qingqing, I heard that there are disciples with thunder spirit roots in the supernatural department. You can find out how they cultivate." Yun Chujio's eyes immediately lit up. That's right. The students in the supernatural department all had mutated spirit roots. Wind spirit roots, thunder spirit roots, and ice spirit roots. Although they didn't have heavenly spirit roots, they might be of some help to her. Yun Chujio decided to go to the spirit department to investigate. Before she left, Qin Linglong reminded her, "I heard that the spirit department has a unique position in the lower house because most of their students can enter the middle house. So be careful and don't be too reckless." "Don't worry. PM an honest person. I won't cause any trouble." Hei Xinjiu left these words and couldn't wait to leave. Qin Linglong and the other two looked at each other. For some reason, they had a bad feeling that they wouldn't cause any trouble. Yun Chujio left the law enforcement team's courtyard and went straight to the spirit department. The spirit department was located at the westernmost part of the lower house. After an hour, Hei Xinjiu arrived at the spirit department. The spirit department was the department with the least number of people in the lower house. Apart from the fact that they had fewer spirit roots, it was also because the spirit department's people were able to enter the middle house within 3 years. Naturally, there were fewer and fewer people. The entire spirit department only had a few hundred people in total, and most of them were freshmen who had entered the school at the same time as Yun Chujio. There were no spectating students in the spirit department. The reason was very simple. The spirit department's people were all very. Based on the above points, the spirit department students were all very arrogant. Once Yun Chujio entered the spirit department, she received many disdainful looks. Some even felt that it was a waste to even look at her. If it were any other person, they would have left with their faces covered in dirt. However, Hei Xinjiu did not mind. She rolled her eyes and walked to a woman. "Senior, don't you remember me? PM Yen Qingqing, the leader of Bias Admirer Alliance. I recently planned an event to invite Beiyu to give a lecture on Xiumu Day. I wonder if this senior is interested in participating?" The woman blushed. "Is what you said true? Can Beiyu come?" "Everything depends on the person. As long as we work together and come up with ideas, we can definitely do it. Senior, can you help me gather the other spirit department members in the alliance? We can discuss it." The woman immediately nodded and agreed. She brought Yun Chujio to her courtyard and went to gather the others. Yun Chujio's heart was sour. The pretty boy's face was really big. Chapter 56:21 Lightning Strikes Stone. This fellow discovered that the people from the spirit department actually had a courtyard each. It was simply enviable. Sigh, it was their fault for having fewer people from the spirit department. After waiting for about an hour, Min Dai, who was also the woman from earlier, brought a number of women into the courtyard while chattering. Yun Chujio immediately went up to her and brought up the topic of Beiyu. Very quickly, she became familiar with him and started chatting with him. After chatting for a while, Mindai said, "The students of the lower house are not allowed to leave the waterside pavilion without permission. We can't even meet Beiyu, let alone invite him. Moreover, Beiyu is very cold and aloof. I'm afraid he might not agree." The others were also frowning. Yun Chujio smiled faintly and said, "There's strength in numbers. Well, think about it carefully and definitely come up with a solution. Even if we can't come up with a solution in 2 or 3 days, definitely come up with a solution in a few days. Oh right, my drawing is not bad. I drew a portrait of Beiyu a few days ago. What do you think?" As Yun Chujio spoke, she took out a portrait of Beiyu. Everyone could not help but exclaim in surprise. The portrait of Beiyu in Yun Chujio's hands was much more vivid than the one in the prodigy's atlas. That cold temperament simply pounced on them, causing their little hearts to beat violently. Min Dai immediately said, "Junior Yen, can you give this portrait to me? Don't worry, I won't take it for free. Name your price." When the others saw this, they immediately clamored, wanting Yun Chujio to sell the portrait to them. Yun Chujio had a troubled look on her face. "You all know that this painting needs inspiration. Even if I draw again, I might not be able to draw such a similar portrait, so I can't bear to give it away. How about this? I'll come over to discuss inviting Beiyu when I'm not in class. When the time comes, I'll bring this painting over for everyone to admire. What do you all think?" Although everyone was a little disappointed, there was only one painting. If it was bought by someone else, no one else would be able to see it. So, they might as well do as Yen Qingqing said. Moreover, she said that she wouldn't sell it. After a long time, she might sell it just to make friends with them. Although everyone had their own plans in mind, they all agreed on the surface. From that day onwards, Hei Shinjio would jump up and down the spirit department whenever she was free, and very quickly, she became familiar with these spirit department girls. This fellow had a sweet mouth, and every time he came, he would bring some snacks for these girls. Although those girls still looked down on her Moreover, there was also a portrait of Beiyu. After they got familiar with each other, the topic of discussion naturally did not stop at Beiyu. Coincidentally, Min Dai had a thunder spirit root. Yun Chujio indirectly obtained some useful information from her. Naturally, the cultivation of a thunder spirit root could not be done without the lightning element. In a normal environment, the lightning element was extremely rare. Fortunately, the spirit department had collected a lot of lightning strike stones and placed them in the cultivation room for the students with thunder spirit roots to absorb. The structure of these thunder stones was very special. After being struck by lightning, they could store some thunder power, which was very suitable for the students with the thunder spirit root to cultivate. However, most of these thunderstones were produced in very dangerous places, and the probability of being struck by lightning was very high. Therefore, only a force like the 10 Directions Academy had the ability to collect the thunderstones. Yun Chujio was overjoyed. The thunder desolation that had troubled her for so long had finally found a way to break it. The first thing she would do if she had the chance was to collect thunderstruck stones. Was the probability of a lightning strike very high? That was exactly what she wanted. Chapter 56-22 Thunder Freeloading. Hei Shinjio had to expend a lot of effort to suppress her soaring mood. She thought to herself that collecting thunderstriking stones was a future matter. Now, she had to think of a way to sneak into the thunder spirit root cultivation room and get some thunder freeloading. Thus, this fellow pretended to be extremely curious. "There's such a magical stone? Can I go in and have an eye-opening experience?" Min Dai's heart stirred. If she brought Yen Qingqing to the cultivation room to broaden her horizons, perhaps she would sell the portrait of Beiyu to her. Even if she did not sell it, it would be good to let her admire it for a few days. Hence, she hesitated for a moment before agreeing. When the other girls with thunder spirit roots saw this, they naturally would not let Min Dai do them a favor. They immediately enthusiastically escorted Hei Shinjio to the thunder spirit root cultivation room. Everyone soon arrived at the thunder spirit root cultivation room. After pushing the door open and entering, the gazes of those who were cultivating inside fell on Yun Chujio. Many people frowned. One of the men's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness. This person's name was Xiao Lianping. He was Xiao Lianqiu's side branch cousin. His status in the Xiao family was naturally incomparable to Xiao Lianqiu's. Therefore, when Xiao Lianqiu gave him the opportunity to deal with Yun Chujio, he was overjoyed. If he were to get involved with Xiao Lianqiu, it would be of great benefit to him and his family. However, before he could find an opportunity to make a move, he heard that Yan Qingqing had become the Fire Element's law enforcement team leader. He could only temporarily give up on the plan and prepare to make a move when the time was right. Recently, he saw that Yun Chujio often came to the Spirit Element. He wanted to take the opportunity to make a move, but Yun Chujio was surrounded by many Spirit Element girls. He could not even get close to her, let alone make a move. Now that Yun Chujio voluntarily came to his door, he was naturally ecstatic. Yan Qingqing, Yan Qingqing, there's really a path to heaven that you don't take, but there's no door to hell. You're really looking for death. Yun Chujio didn't notice Xiao Lianping's expression. At this moment, she was like a little mouse that had fallen into a rice vat. She was so beautiful that it was about to bubble. The moment she entered the cultivation room, she could feel the rich lightning element in the air. The purple dots couldn't wait to drill into her meridians. It was simply wonderful. This fellow looked around and found that the surroundings were only ordinary walls. Then the question came, where were the lightning stones hidden? Just as this fellow was puzzled, Min Dai introduced, Junior Yen, do you see the round platform in the middle? The lightning stones are all placed there. However, because the lightning spiritual power there is too dense and the lightning spiritual power is very violent, we usually don't dare to go too close to that place during cultivation to avoid going crazy. Yun Chujio looked in the direction where Min Dai was pointing. As expected, there was a large space in the middle, and those students with lightning spiritual roots were only cultivating around. Yun Chujio nodded. Senior Min, I suddenly have a glimmer of inspiration. How about this? You guys cultivate here, and I'll try to draw a portrait of the Northern King. When Min Dai and the others heard this, they were naturally overjoyed. They did not dare to disturb Yun Chujio, afraid that they would take away her inspiration. Yun Chujio pretended to take out a table, pen, ink, paper, and inkstone, and started drawing. In fact, the fellow was absorbing the lightning spirit energy that was constantly surging into her body. She frowned. After all, she wasn't a student of the spirit faculty. It was fine for her to come once in a while, but if she kept coming, it would definitely cause unnecessary trouble. It would be best if she could find a way to get her hands on those lightning stones. Just as she was deep in thought, Xiao Lianping stood up and walked toward Yun Chujio. His lowered eyes were filled with viciousness. Chapter 56:23 You push me. Xiao Lianping looked as if he wanted to leave the training room. However, when he passed by Yun Chujio, he accidentally stumbled. In order to maintain his balance, he placed his left hand on the desk in front of Yun Chujio. However, his right hand used the cover of his body and sleeve to crush a pill. This was the Xiao family's secret Mandarin duck soul-devouring pill. This pill was divided into Mandarin duck pill and Mandarin duck pill. What he crushed now was Mandarin duck pill, and it did not cause any harm to people. He planned to find another opportunity to let Yun Chujio absorb the yin-yang pill in 2 days. At that time, no one would be able to find out the cause of her death. Just as he was feeling proud in his heart, he heard Yun Chujio scream, You pushed me. Following the scream, Yun Chujio's entire body fell toward the round platform. Xiao Lianping subconsciously looked at his right hand. He didn't push her? Min Dai and the others were afraid of disturbing Yun Chujio's inspiration, so they were quite far away from Yun Chujio. In addition, the incident happened suddenly, so they could only watch in a daze as Yun Chujio fell to the center of the round platform. Yun Chujio fell hard on the round platform. It was unknown whether it was because the round platform was too weak or what happened, but the round platform actually shattered. The violent lightning spiritual power inside immediately surged out. Min Dai and the others were so scared that they cried out repeatedly and ran out in panic. It must be known that there were a lot of lightning stones stored under the round platform. The power of the lightning from these lightning stones was not something they could withstand. If it was light, they would go berserk, but if it was heavy, they would probably be damaged. Everyone ran out of the cultivation room and ran for a distance before they stopped. Min Dai's face turned pale. Oh no! Yen Qingqing is still inside. Although Min Dai and the others had been quite familiar with Yun Chujio during this period of time, they were not on good terms with each other. Naturally, they would not risk their lives to save her. Thus, they found excuses one after another. Such a big incident has happened. The department head will rush over very soon. He will arrange to save her. That's right. Even if we go in, we won't be able to save her. Who knows, we might even cause unnecessary trouble. That's right. If we want to blame someone, it's her own fault. Why did she fall all of a sudden? When one of the girls said this, she looked at Xiao Lianping, whose face was a little pale, with a strange expression. Min Dai and the others then recalled what had happened before. Yen Qingqing had once shouted, "You pushed me." Could it be that Yen Qingqing was pushed onto the round platform by Xiao Lianping? It must be so. At that time, he was the closest to Yen Qingqing. It was impossible for Yen Qingqing to fly out of there unscathed. It must have been him who pushed Yen Qingqing. But why did he do that? Very quickly, someone thought of the crux of the problem. This Xiao Lianping was Xiao Lianqiao's side branch cousin, and Yen Qingqing had offended Xiao Lianqiao a few days ago. He must have taken the opportunity to take revenge. Xiao Lianping saw everyone's suspicious gaze and was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He did want to kill that Yen Qingqing, but he didn't push her at all, okay? However, he was a little confused now. Maybe he subconsciously pushed her? Otherwise, why would Yen Qingqing suddenly fly out? At this moment, in the cultivation room, He Xinyu was lying on top of those lightning stones. She was so happy that she was almost floating. Although the lightning power emitted by these lightning stones was very violent to Min Dai and the others, to her, it was extremely gentle. This fellow followed the principle of not wasting it. He released the little black bird, the little mushroom, and the little Wu Yun. He even took out the phoenix egg that had yet to hatch. Little ones, it's rare to have a chance to eat meat. Hurry up and absorb more. Otherwise, there won't be a chance for anyone to come later. Chapter 56:24 Goei Batsao looked at the lightning stones and wanted to keep them all in her storage ring. However, she knew that it was okay for her to secretly absorb some of them, but if she secretly took the lightning stones, she might attract trouble, so she reluctantly gave up the idea. Goei Batsao blinked her eyes. Maybe someone from the spirit class would come in soon. She had to think of a way to distract them so that she could absorb more. Thus, she let the Goei Batsao begin to release its fragrance. The stronger the better. The Spirit Department's sect Master Yuan and the Spirit Department's teachers were discussing something when they received news of the Lightning Department's incident. They immediately rushed over to the training room. However, at that moment, a solemn bell rang. The bell rang from all directions, causing sect Master Yuan and the others' expressions to change greatly. Compared to the bell, the matter in the thunder cultivation room was nothing. At worst, they could just send people to collect the thunder stone. However, this bell signified that something big had happened. There was an ancient flood bell in each of the 10 waterside pavilions of the 10 Directions Academy. Only in times of crisis would these 10 flood bells be rung. What on earth had happened? Sect Master Yuan couldn't care less about the thunder cultivation room. Just as he was about to send a message to President He sent a message to him. When Sect Master Yuan heard the message from President He, his face turned even uglier. The Spirit Department lecturers were confused and asked, "Sect Master, what on earth is going on?" The sea beasts of the Misty Lake suddenly rebelled, so the Academy had to temporarily activate the protective array, Sect Master Yuan said in a deep voice. Everyone immediately looked surprised. The sea beasts of the Misty Lake had always been very well behaved. They had never interfered with the 10 Directions Academy. How could they suddenly become violent? Sect Master Yuan frowned and said, "Let's go." Follow me to the back island to take a look. The spirit department was at the westernmost side of the waterside pavilion of the lower academy. President He had just sent a message to ask Sect Master Yuan to bring people to the west side of the waterside pavilion to supervise the battle, so as to avoid any mistakes. Although the protective shield of the 10 Directions Academy was very strong, it was still better to be careful. At the same time, the 2 caves at the back of the waterside pavilion of the upper house opened at the same time, and 2 old men with white hair and white beards walked out. The 2 old men looked at each other. One of the tall old men sighed and said, "Could it?" Tao Tai came out. The disaster is coming, and all things are destroyed. Although the first 2 sentences were fulfilled, Tao Tai didn't do anything unusual. Maybe we were just worrying too much, said the shorter old man. I hope so. However, according to the rules of the Sea Beast Riot, this riot is not unusual. I'm afraid the disaster is coming soon. At that time, all the creatures will not be able to escape. The short elder comforted him, You don't have to be so pessimistic. Don't forget the last 4 lines of the prophecy. The tall elder was a little dazed and said in a low voice, Yes, there are still the last 4 lines. The ethereal soul, the escapist Tao, 2 reincarnation, the disaster is hard to break. But what is the ethereal soul? What is the escapist Tao? And what is the 2 reincarnation? The short elder said lightly, Everything in the world has its own destiny. When the time is right, we will naturally find out. At this moment, the 10-sided waterside pavilion was in a state of panic. Fortunately, the 10-sided academy had a deep foundation and quickly stabilized its position. The students were ordered to return to their dormitories and wait for orders. They were not allowed to go out without permission. Chapter 5625 came and went in a hurry. The higher-ups, the lecturers, and the guards were guarding one side to ensure that the protective array would not be breached by the sea beasts. Everyone was puzzled. The sea beasts seemed to have gone crazy. Some of the sea beasts did not have the ability to walk on land, but they pounced on the sea beasts recklessly. Some of them had seen the sea beasts riot before, but they were definitely not as crazy as this time. Hei Shinjio did not know that she had already caused a huge commotion. This fellow was currently happily absorbing the power of lightning. In fact, it was not her fault. She had always thought that although there were some sea beasts in the Misty Lake, they would not be very powerful. After all, when they came on the boat, they had only seen some low-level sea beasts. She was afraid that the low-level sea beasts would not be able to attract the attention of the spirits, so she had Goei Batsao work hard to attract the sea beasts. For hours later, the guy had finally finished absorbing the lightning stones, and his cultivation had successfully broken through to the 2nd layer of the divine revelation realm. Although he was a little disappointed, it was still not bad. After all, it was a chance he had picked up for nothing. The guy still adjusted his cultivation to the 9th layer of the spirit extinguisher realm, ready to find a suitable opportunity to break through again. The guy looked at the broken round table. When she had landed earlier, she had secretly used a large kitchen knife to cut the round table. The power of lightning inside the round table overflowed and shattered the round table. She looked carefully and found that there was no flaw, so she sneaked out of the cultivation room. As soon as this fellow sneaked out of the cultivation room, countless spirit bees and spirit butterflies pounced on her. There were even groups of spirit ants gathering under her feet and crazily coming at her. There was no spirit beast garden in the waterside pavilion of the lower house, only these demonic insects. After they were attracted by the Goei Batsao, they were afraid of the power of lightning in the cultivation room, so they all gathered outside the cultivation room. The moment Hei Shinjio came out, coupled with the strong fragrance on her body, these demonic insects naturally went crazy. Yun Chujio was completely unprepared. In an instant she was stung by the spirit bee, and her face was full of big bumps. She was in so much pain that she bared her teeth. This guy hurriedly raised his spiritual energy shield and ran forward desperately. As he ran, he made the Goei Batsao stop emitting the fragrance and kept using the cleaning technique. This fellow cursed in his heart. Fuck, could it be that he had done too many immoral things and had suffered retribution? As the Goei Batsao stopped releasing its fragrance, the demonic insects gave up after chasing it for a while. Only then did Hei Shinjio run back to the dormitory while panting. Ding Wenru and the other two were shocked when they saw her miserable appearance. Ding Wenru's eyes widened. "Qingqing, did you go to steal honey? How did you get stung like this?" Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and took out the ointment and smeared it on her face. "Remember, if anyone asks, just tell them that I returned to the dormitory 2 hours ago. Do you understand?" Ding Wenru and the other two looked at each other. Did this guy get into trouble again? Yun Chujio's ointment was very effective. In addition, she was immune to all poisons. Her little face quickly recovered. This fellow ignored the suspicious gazes of Ding Wenru and the other two. In his heart, he was thinking about how to deal with the interrogation that would soon arrive. After all, she had absorbed the power of the lightning that struck the stone. This matter could be big or small. He had to think of a way to deal with it. However, the person who wanted to harm her was a good choice to take the blame. He wanted to poison her to death? Naive. On the other side, the people of the 10-sided waterside pavilion were stunned to find that the sea beasts had suddenly retreated. They came and left in a hurry, as if everything that had happened was just an illusion. Chapter 56-26. The lightning strike stones were all ineffective. Although the sea beasts had retreated, the defensive array of the 10-sided waterside pavilion hadn't been shut down for safety's sake. They still sent people to closely monitor the movements of the sea beasts. Sect Master Yuan and the others had also been standing guard everywhere. It wasn't until the next morning that they let out a sigh of relief when there were no more abnormalities. It seemed that this inexplicable beast tide was finally over. Everyone returned to their respective departments to rest. However, Sect Master Yuan suddenly remembered what had happened in the lightning element cultivation room. He felt his head ache a little. However, he had no choice but to deal with it. He could only bring the spirit faculty lecturers to the lightning element cultivation room. As the students were ordered not to leave their dormitories, there was not a single person outside the lightning element cultivation room. The news that Sect Master Yuan received yesterday only said that the power of lightning in the lightning cultivation room had leaked out. He did not know the details. Therefore, he held up his spiritual energy barrier and walked into the cultivation room. The others followed closely behind. When the crowd saw the situation inside, they were all dumbfounded. They saw that the lightning stones under the round platform had turned gray-white. Clearly, the power of lightning inside had been released. Even if the power of lightning had been released, the lightning stones should not have been ineffective. Moreover, the round table was made of special materials and there was an array formation on it. Why did it shatter? Sect Master Yuan looked at the pile of abandoned lightning stones and was filled with frustration. He really could not understand why the power of lightning had disappeared. Could it be related to the sea beast riot? Sect Master Yuan immediately ordered someone to call Min Dai and the others who were present yesterday over to inquire about the incident. At this moment, Min Dai's intestines were green with regret. If she had known that such a huge disaster would happen, she would not have brought Yan Qingqing to the cultivation room. However, the incident had already happened. No matter what she said, it was too late. Fortunately, last night, Yun Chujio sent a message to Min Dai saying that she had escaped from the cultivation room and that it was not a big deal. She even cried and said that Xiao Lianping had pushed her. Min Dai immediately decided to push the blame onto Xiao Lianping and let him take the blame. Thus, Min Dai said, "System head, yesterday, Yan Qingqing from the fire element wanted to visit the cultivation room. We have always been on good terms with her and agreed to it. After she came in, she was supposed to be fine painting here. However, Xiao Yinping suddenly pushed her onto the round table and the round table broke. In our panic, we all ran out. Yan Qingqing also ran out after we ran out, and she was fine. After that, the sea beast riot happened. I don't know what happened in the cultivation room after that." The other girls also chimed in, proving that what Min Dai said was true. In fact, they did not see whether Yun Chujio escaped or not. However, Yun Chujio was brought into the cultivation room by them. Only by taking Yun Chujio out could their mistakes be alleviated. When Sect Master Yuan heard the words Yan Qingqing, his face immediately stiffened. Why did that fire element troublemaker come to their spirit element to cause trouble? Although Yan Qingqing was only a freshman, the successive incidents had rapidly increased her popularity. There was not a single person in the entire lower house who did not know about this fellow. Even many people in the middle and upper house knew that there was a weirdo in the lower house. Sect Master Yuan frowned and said to Min Dai, "Tell Yan Qingqing to come here immediately." Min Dai naturally did not dare to delay and immediately sent a message to Yun Chujio. An hour later, Yun Chujio came over. However, she was not alone. "Sect Master Yuan, why did you ask Yan Qingqing to come here so early in the morning? Could it be that our fire department students are also going to be under the control of your spirit department?" Sect Master Jin teased and said angrily. Chapter 56-27 Sect Master Yuan's face froze. He was in a hurry to find out the truth of the matter and had violated the taboo. After all, Yan Qingqing was a member of the fire element. No matter what, he should at least greet Sect Master Jin before asking her to come over. Of course, he was also very angry in his heart. Now that you knew that Yan Qingqing was a student of the fire element, you should lock her up in the fire element and not come out to harm others. Although he was complaining in his heart, he smiled and said, "I was busy all night because of the sea beast riot. I was too busy and didn't think it through. I'm sorry. Sect Master Jin saw that Sect Master Yuan said this, so he couldn't continue to find fault. He smiled and said, "I was just joking. Since the matter is related to Yan Qingqing, she should come over to cooperate with the investigation." Sect Master Yuan cursed in his heart for being hypocritical, but he still said a few polite words. Then he changed the topic and asked, "Yan Qingqing, what exactly happened yesterday?" Yun Chujia's small face was instantly filled with grievance and anger. "Sect Master Yuan, out of curiosity about the lightning cultivation room, I begged Senior Sister Min and the others to open my eyes. Then I had the inspiration to draw, so I took out a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone and drew there. Who would have thought that a senior from the spirit element would suddenly push me, and I accidentally fell onto the round platform. For some reason, the round platform shattered. Immediately, violent lightning power surged out. If I didn't have many defensive spirit tools on me, I would have died long ago. Oh, it's him. Sect Master Yuan, please help me make a decision." As Yun Chujio spoke, she pointed at the pale-faced Xiao Lianping. She already knew Xiao Lianping's identity from Min Dai yesterday, so she naturally guessed why he wanted to poison her to death. Sect Master Yuan didn't doubt Yun Chujio's words, because her words were the same as Min Dai's and the other swords. Moreover, although the lightning power was very violent, if she had a defensive spirit tool on her and she escaped quickly, it was possible for her to escape unscathed. Sect Master Yuan didn't ask Yun Chujio what kind of defensive spirit tool she had. He didn't want to bear the reputation of coveting his student's treasure. Immediately, Sect Master Yuan looked at the pale-faced Xiao Lianping and asked, "Is what Yan Qingqing said true? Why did you push her?" Xiao Lianping even felt that he was the one who pushed Yun Chujio. After hearing Sect Master Yuan's words, he immediately said in a trembling voice, "Sect Master, I didn't do it on purpose. I stumbled and tried to keep my balance. In my panic, I pushed Yan Qingqing. Everyone present wasn't stupid." Even so, Sect Master Yuan was on Xiao Lianping's side. There weren't many students in the spirit faculty, so there was no need to punish a student from his faculty for the sake of a student from another faculty. Therefore, he looked at Sect Master Zhen and asked, "Sect Master Zhen, how do you think this matter should be handled?" What could Sect Master Zhen say? Although Xiao Lianping had bad intentions, Yan Qingqing, a student from the fire department, went to the spirit department's cultivation room to show off. In the end, she even caused so many lightning stones to lose their effectiveness. Naturally, it was a small matter that was reduced to a small matter. Therefore, he smiled and said, "Since this matter happened in the spirit department, Sect Master Yuan will make the decision on his own." Sect Master Yuan nodded and said, "Xiao Lianping, although you didn't mean to do it, You almost put Yan Qingqing in danger and caused the lightning strike stone to fail. I'm giving you a warning and punishment, a punishment of 1,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones, and an apology to Yan Qingqing. Do you accept the punishment? Chapter 56-28. Find a way to invite Bei Yu. Xiao Lianping knew that this was already Sect Master Yuan showing mercy to him. After all, those lightning strike stones were priceless. A mere 1,000,000 high-grade spirit stones could only buy a few pieces. Therefore, he immediately said in shame, I admit my punishment. I will definitely learn from my mistakes in the future and not act rashly anymore. He walked in front of Yun Chujio again and resisted the urge to strangle her. He said, Junior Yen, I'm sorry. This time, it's all my fault. I'll apologize to you. Yun Chujio subconsciously took 2 steps back and said, forget about the apology. Just don't hurt me again in the future. Xiao Lianping was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but he couldn't say anything. He could only smile bitterly. Junior Yen, you must be joking. Sect Master Jin stopped when he saw what was good for him. He berated Yun Chujio, then said, Sect Master Yuan, I still have things to do at the fire department, so I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye. Sect Master Yuan wasn't in a good mood at the moment. After a few polite words, he let Sect Master Jin leave with Yun Chujio. On the way back, Sect Master Jin looked at Yun Chujio suspiciously. Are you sure that the failure of those lightning stones has nothing to do with you? Yun Chujio had an innocent look on her face. Sect Master, you also know that PM are good for nothing. How can I do anything to those lightning stones? If it weren't for the fact that I've always cherished my life and prepared a lot of defensive spirit tools, you would only see a charred corpse now. Sect Master Jin thought about it and agreed. Although she was a troublemaker, she didn't have the ability to do that. It was probably related to the Sea Beast riot yesterday. Even so, don't jump into the spirit department in the future. Otherwise, you'll cause unnecessary trouble, Sect Master Jin said coldly. Yun Chujio quickly agreed. This fellow thought to herself that even if Sect Master Jin didn't instruct her, she wouldn't go to the spirit department for a while. After all, there were no more lightning-striking stones. Thanks to the Sea Beast riot, the matter of the lightning-striking stones failing was simply over. However, Min Dai and the others were still thinking about the matter of inviting Bei Yu. From time to time, they would send messages to urge Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio thought about it. If this dragged on for too long, it was inevitable that Min Dai and the others would become suspicious. Moreover, she also wanted to ask the pretty boy about the voice transmission talisman. However, the pretty boy was now a student of the upper house. How could he reasonably invite him to the lower house? Yun Chujio pondered for a while and felt that unless President He made a move, this matter would be difficult to accomplish. Therefore, that morning, Hei Shinjio hopped to the door of President He's courtyard. She was about to let the guards go in to report when President He walked out. President He saw Yun Chujio and frowned. Yan Qingqing, do you have something? Good morning, President He. It's nothing much. It's just that our Northern Admirer Alliance wants to invite Northern Yu to teach, but we don't have enough strength. We want your help, Yun Chujio said with a smile. President He was so angry that his nose almost went crooked. Unless he was out of his mind, he wouldn't help them invite Northern Yu. These students didn't train hard day by day. They only thought about love and love. They really didn't want to improve. Thinking of this, the way he looked at Yun Chujio became more and more unfriendly. This Yan Qingqing first instigated the bystanders to cause trouble, and then caused the matter of the smoke cloud powder lotus. A few days ago, the failure of the spirit element's lightning strike stone was also inextricably linked to her. No wonder the CAI department reminded him to keep an eye on this Yan Qingqing. Unfortunately, although she had caused a lot of trouble, she could not find any evidence against her. It was really infuriating. Thinking of this, President He's heart moved. It just so happens that I have to go to the upper house to take care of some matters. You should come with me. Chapter 56-29. The wolf with a big tail. Hei Shinjio couldn't believe her ears. Old man, he actually offered to take her to the upper house? He's either a traitor or a thief. He must be up to no good. However, she could go to the upper house for a walk and check if the pretty boy was trying to attract girls behind her back. Thinking of this, she bared her little white teeth. President, you're so kind to me. I'm so touched. Do you need my help? Do you have anything you need me to carry? Like spirit stones or something? President He's face darkened. Don't be noisy. Come with me. Yun Chujio immediately followed behind President He, her heart filled with joy. This fellow felt that her luck had finally turned. Not only did she get the power of lightning, but now she could also go meet the pretty boy. Her days were getting more and more beautiful. Seeing that President He did not pay attention to her, this fellow simply strutted behind President He with his hands behind his back. When he met other students, this fellow even nodded his head in a serious manner, like a wolf with a big tail. When the students of the lower house saw this situation, they were all puzzled. Where was the president taking that Yan Qingcheng? Looking at Yan Qingcheng's arrogant appearance, it must be a good thing. Just as everyone was guessing, coincidentally, Sect Master Zhen walked over. When Sect Master Zhen saw Yun Chujio behind President He, the first thought that popped up in his mind was, this troublemaker has caused trouble again. Just as he was in a daze, Yun Chujio bowed and said, Sect Master, the president wants to take me to see the upper academy president. I'm not in the Raging Fire department, so please pay more attention to the matters in the department. Sect Master Zhen's nose almost went crooked from anger. These words sounded as if the Raging Fire department wouldn't be able to survive without her. Also, the president usually didn't show any emotion to this Yan Qingcheng, so why was he eagerly taking her to the upper academy now? Could it be that he had been tricked by this troublemaker? Seeing the suspicious look in Sect Master Zhen's eyes, President He was speechless and didn't explain further. I'll bring Yan Qingcheng to the upper house to settle some matters, and I'll be back in the evening. Sect Master Zhen nodded in a daze and watched President He and Yun Chujio leave. Then he shook his head and left. President He brought Yun Chujio out of the lower house's waterside pavilion and took the spirit ship to the upper house's waterside pavilion. Yun Chujio tried to curry favor with President He for a while. Seeing that there was no effect, this guy didn't ask for trouble and ran to the side to enjoy the scenery. After a while, this guy took out his fishing rod and started fishing, staring at the floating fish with sparkling eyes. The Goebatsao in Yun Chujio's Dantian cursed in her heart. As long as she put it into the water, there would be as many fish as she wanted. Was there a need to go through so much trouble? It was so stupid. Yun Chujio naturally did not know what Goebatsao was thinking. Even if she knew, she would not do that. Otherwise, if President He discovered the uniqueness of Goebatsao, it would be digging a hole for herself. Needless to say, Hei Xinjia's luck was not bad. Just as she put the hook down, the fish floated up. This guy immediately shouted excitedly, "It's on the hook! Ha! There's fish to eat!" President He was shocked by the guy's shout. He glared at her back and wished he could kick her into the lake. Oh my, it's quite heavy. It must be a big fish. Brother Qi, don't just stand there, help me get it up. Yun Chujio shouted at Qi Huan. Qi Huan couldn't refuse, so he walked up to help Yun Chujio retract the line. However, when they saw the fish, they were all dumbfounded. Chapter 5630. A corpse was caught. It was a corpse, a male corpse wearing only a tunic. Hei Xinjia's face was stiff. She was going to catch a fish. The fish? How did she catch such a thing? President He's face immediately turned serious. This was Misty Lake, and it was only a few kilometers away from the nearest waterside pavilion. According to common sense, it was impossible for a corpse to be dumped in the lake. Hei Xinjio blinked her eyes and asked, "President, do you think he drowned because he played truant?" President He. At this moment, Qi Huan had already examined the body and said, "President, this person must have been severely injured when he was alive, but he didn't die. He must have drowned later, and his time of death shouldn't have been more than 4 hours. Does he have any items that represent his identity?" President He frowned. Qi Huan shook his head. "No. President He asked Chi Huan to put away the body with a solemn expression and prepared to report this matter to the upper house. President He's gaze fell on He Xinjiu, who was sighing. How did she manage to fish up a corpse? Could it be related to her? If He Xinjiu knew President He's thoughts, she would probably be so depressed that she would vomit blood. She had originally wanted to fish up a fish to satisfy her craving, but who would have thought that she would fish up a dead body? She was also very depressed, all right? Don't mention this matter to anyone, understand? President He said to Yun Chujio in a deep voice. Yun Chujio hurriedly nodded. I didn't see anything, nor did I hear anything. 15 minutes later, the spirit ship arrived at the dock of the upper house's waterside pavilion. The security at the dock was very strict. Even President He was only allowed to enter after his identity jade plate was checked by the guards. Yun Chujio pondered in her heart. Since the security was so strict, what was with the corpse? Regardless of whether it was the students or the guards, they shouldn't have been so silent. President He asked Chi Huan and the others to wait at the pier while he brought He Xinjiu to the upper house. The upper house occupied an area similar to the lower house, but even some minor details could be seen that it was much higher than the lower house. On the way, they met some upper house students. When they saw Yun Chujio, the disdain on their faces could not be hidden. The 9th level of spirit extinguisher? When they saw the attire of the students from the lower house, they looked down on her even more. Yun Chujio was completely unaware of this and looked around curiously. President He sighed in his heart. Regardless of whether this Yen Qingqing had any ulterior motives, just her calmness was not simple. He originally wanted to bring Yun Chujio to see Director Kai Ti. However, because of the corpse that he had found earlier, he was in a hurry to see President Gu from the upper house. He said to Yun Chujio, Superintendent Kai wants to see you. You can go to the alchemy division to look for him directly. I will go there to look for you later. Superintendent Kai? Yun Chujio was a little surprised. If Superintendent Zhang wanted to see her, it was understandable. She was not familiar with Superintendent Kai, so why would he want to see her? Although this fellow was suspicious, he still obediently agreed. After President He gave his orders, he left in a hurry. Yun Chujio stood where she was and thought of a few things. Thinking of President He's inexplicable hostility and wariness towards her, she vaguely had a guess in her heart. She felt that the problem was most likely with the department of the Kai department. However, what exactly did she do to provoke the department of the Kai department? She thought about it and couldn't think of a reason, so she decided not to think about it. She just wanted to test it out when they met. She asked for the location of the alchemy division and went to the alchemy division. Chapter 5631. I'm very busy. Halfway through, Yun Chujio heard a commotion coming from the front. Quick! Bei's class is about to end. Let's go to the entrance of the spiritual energy branches teaching hall to stop him. Oh my god, how could I forget that today is Bei's class day? If I knew this would happen, I would have worn that pink dress. Bei only leaves the courtyard during class. We definitely can't let go of this good opportunity. The thought of being able to accompany Bei back to the dormitory drives me crazy. Yun Chujio's face immediately sank. This group of shameless flirtatious bitches. The gigolo was hers. Hers. However, this fellow's heart stirred. She could mingle among these people to check on the gigolo and see if he was cheating on her. Therefore, this guy couldn't care less about going to the alchemy division. He mingled with the girls and went to the teaching hall of the spirit energy division. The girls were all thinking about Bei, and no one noticed Yun Chujio. After a few twists and turns, Yun Chujio followed everyone to the spirit energy division. Coincidentally, the teaching hall was dismissed. Everyone craned their necks to look for Bei's figure, and soon, they saw him. However, Bei was surrounded by girls. Even though Bei's face was indifferent and his body was distant, those women still surrounded him like moths to a flame. Even if they didn't say anything, it was still good to just watch. They wanted to get closer, but someone who wanted to touch Bei's hand was slapped away by Bei's palm. From then on, everyone tactfully stayed 3 feet away from Bei. It was as if Bei did not see the infatuated gazes of the girls. He walked forward at a steady pace, and every step he took seemed to be measured. Hei Xinjiu, who was hiding in the crowd, curled her lips. She felt that Di Biming's performance was barely passable. Of course, she also knew that Di Biming had already restrained himself. If it weren't for his misgivings, he would have sent all the girls around him flying. At this moment, someone rushed over from outside the crowd. When the girls saw who it was, they unwillingly opened up a path for them. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. It really was a narrow road for enemies. The person who came was Xiao Lianqiao. Although her expression was still calm, the love in her eyes was about to spill out. Bei Yu, the pill refinement is complete. This is your portion. Xiao Lianqiao took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to Bei Yu. Yun Chujio originally thought that Bei Yu would not accept it. She did not expect that not only did he accept it, he even said 2 words thank you. Hei Xinjiu was about to explode from anger. This guy roared in his heart, great! You gigolo, you actually taught Xiao Lianqiao, this little bitch, a secret. Tell me if. What kind of pills can I not refine? You ingrate. Just you wait. Xiao Lianqiao saw that Bei Yu not only accepted the pills, but also gave her a rare thank you. Immediately, her face flushed red. Bei Yu, you are too polite. We're teammates, I should help you refine pills. In fact, Xiao Lianqiao really wanted to add that even if she had to help Bei Yu refine pills for the rest of his life, she would be happy. Bei Yu only lightly nodded his head and did not say anything else. He continued to walk forward. Xiao Lianqiao took 2 steps forward. Bei Yu, I have a few questions regarding my cultivation. Can I ask you to help me answer them? When Xiao Lianqiao said this, her eyes were filled with longing. She had to admit that her expression was rather gentle and moving. Some of the boys around her were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. They wished that they could help Bei Yu agree. However, Bei Yu's footsteps did not change at all. His cold voice sounded, I'm very busy. Chapter 5632. I'm here to see you. The message of, I'm very busy, was very clear. I don't have time to answer Xiao Lianqiao's questions. Xiao Lianqiao's pretty face stiffened, but she mustered up her courage and said, it's okay, I'll ask you on the way. It won't take long. Xiao Lianqiao felt that Bei Yu would definitely agree. After all, she had already said so. However, Bei Yu did not even look at her. He continued to walk forward, leaving her on the spot. Xiao Lianqiao's face suddenly flushed red. She was embarrassed and angry. However, looking at Bei Yu's tall and straight back, she gritted her teeth and chased after him. Yun Chujio looked coldly at the crowd. In her heart, she pursed her lips. This Xiao Lianqiao was most likely a plaster. She was trying to force her way up. However, what did she mean by teammate just now? While this guy was distracted, Xiao Lianqiao had already caught up to Bei Yu. The other girls did not dare to compete with her and gave her the best seat, allowing her to walk side by side with Bei Yu, even though the distance was a little far. Even so, Xiao Lianqiao revealed a shy smile on her face. In Bei Yu's heart, she was after all different from the rest. Only she was worthy of walking side by side with Bei Yu. At this moment, a sweet voice came from behind. Big brother Bei Yu, I've come all the way here with a heart full of love to see you. Bei Yu's footsteps immediately stopped. For a moment, he thought that he was hallucinating. He had just turned around when he saw a figure squeeze out of the crowd and rush towards him. Bei Yu was conflicted for a moment. She would definitely rush over and hug him. Should he push her away or not? However, when Yun Chujio rushed in front of him, she did not hug him. Instead, she smiled and said, Big brother Bei Yu, are you surprised to see? Bei Yu immediately felt a little disappointed. Why didn't she hug him? Bei Yu had yet to speak when Xiao Lianqiao, who was at the side, yelled sharply, Yan Qingqing? Why did you come to the upper house? How did you get in? You actually left the lower house without permission. This is a serious violation of the rules of the academy. You deserve to be expelled. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. Senior Xiao, is there something wrong with your brain? Since I'm here, I naturally have a reasonable reason. You're neither the principal of the lower house nor the principal of the upper house. Can you control me? Everyone was stunned by Yun Chujia's valiance. One had to know that most people would not dare to easily provoke Xiao Lianxiao. This little girl who wore the uniform of the lower house actually dared to speak to Xiao Lianxiao like this. She was really bold and reckless. However, the name Yan Qingqing seemed to be somewhat familiar. Wasn't this the president of the Northern Imperial Admir? As expected, she was just as shameless as the rumors said. She immediately called him Big Brother Beiyu. A trash from the lower house actually dared to dream about Beiyu? What wishful thinking! Xiao Lianxiao was naturally furious. She reached out her hand and was about to slap Yun Chujio, but she did not expect that just as she raised her hand, Yun Chujio quickly hid behind Beiyu. Big Brother Beiyu, help! This ugly freak wants to hit me. The onlookers. This Yan Qingqing was not only infatuated, but also blind, right? Xiao Lianxiao was more beautiful than her, yet she actually called Xiao Lianxiao an ugly freak? Furthermore, Beiyu was famous for being indifferent. How could he care about her life? Did he really treat her like a plate of vegetables? Xiao Lianxiao also felt that Beiyu would not interfere, so she said to Beiyu, "Beiyu, you have something to do first. I must teach this Yan Qingqing a lesson today." Chapter 5633. Respect yourself. Beiyu looked at Xiao Lianxiao indifferently and said, "Fighting is forbidden in the academy. Are you going to break the rules?" Xiao Lianxiao did not expect Beiyu to speak up for Yun Chujio. She was angry and annoyed at the same time. However, Yun Chujio poked her head out from behind Beiyu and winked at her. She was so angry that she was about to explode. She could not care less and said angrily, "Beiyu, get out of the way. I must teach this bitch a lesson today." As she spoke, she poured her spiritual energy into her hand and attacked Yun Chujio. She gritted her teeth in her heart. Even if she accidentally killed Yan Qingqing, it would not be a big deal. At most, it would only be a warning. She had to kill this bitch today. Who would have thought that before her palm even got close to Yun Chujio, it was blocked by a sharp palm wind, and her entire body was sent flying by the palm wind. Xiao Lianxiao fell to the ground in a sorry state. Although she wasn't injured, her face was full of shock and sadness. Beiyu actually helped that Yan Qingqing. For the sake of that Yan Qingqing, he actually made a move on her. Xiao Lianxiao might have suffered a huge blow. She stood up and covered her face as she ran away crying. The surrounding crowd was also extremely shocked. No one had expected that the usually indifferent Beiyu would actually protect that Yan Qingqing from the lower house. Hei Xinjiao felt extremely comfortable in her heart, but on the surface she cried out, "Sob sob, Brother Beiyu, you're really too good to me. I really want to hug you, but I have to respect myself. I can't hug you." Beiyu's face stiffened, and he suddenly had an ominous feeling in his heart. Did he dig a hole for himself? Beiyu forced himself to suppress the urge to help Hei Xinjiao wipe her tears and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Hei Xinjiao wiped her tears and said, "Brother Beiyu, on behalf of the Alliance, I invite you to lecture in the lower house. Ever since I heard your lecture the last time, many of my classmates have learned a lot, so they strongly requested President He to invite you to lecture in the lower house again. I followed President He to invite you. President He has something to discuss with President Gu, so he asked me to look for you first. Later, he will call us over to meet him." The crowd did not suspect anything, but they secretly cursed President He in their hearts. This lower house president, he was too open-minded. He even specially invited Beiyu for those infatuated students. It was simply too much envy. Even though Beiyu did not believe Yun Chujio's words, he did not expose her. He simply nodded lightly. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said slyly, "Brother Beiyu, I'm still a guest. Shouldn't you invite me to your dorm?" When the surrounding girls heard this, they were filled with righteous indignation. Shameless. Too shameless. This Yan Qingqing actually wanted to go to Beiyu's dorm? In her dreams. Not to mention the girls, even the boys could not enter Beiyu's dorm. How could they have known that a certain someone was so conflicted in his heart? Of course, he wanted Yun Chujio to go to his dormitory. This way, he could relieve the pain of lovesickness and also instruct her on some things. However, if he did this, It would be too sudden and might cause unnecessary trouble. Just as a certain someone was hesitating, a boy wearing the uniform of the alchemy division ran over. "You are Yen Qingqing, right? Supervisor Kai asked me to call you over." Yun Chujia's heart was filled with anger. This Supervisor Kai really wanted to make things difficult for her. However, she had no choice but to go. She could only reluctantly say, "Brother Beiyu, I'm going to see Supervisor Kai first. I'll see you later." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.